From the past few lectures, we have been addressing and contemplating upon the 21st verse of Surah Al Baqarah, wherein Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala states, Ya ayyuhan nas u'budu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum walladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqoon. O mankind, worship your Lord who created you and those before you, that happily you may become righteous, you may become pious, you may become righteous. So we've been contemplating about this 21st verse of Surah Al Baqarah from various perspectives and dimensions. And for instance, in the previous lecture, while considering this 21st verse, we addressed the definition and the meaning of Taqwa, what really is Taqwa. We concluded that Taqwa is not, piety is not that one that a person leaves his family, his wife, his children, his friends, his acquaintances, he leaves them all and retires into some forest, just thinking that he is doing this for the sake of Allah, that he is doing this to worship Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and that he does not care about his other obligations, his duties towards his children, his family, his duty, for instance, towards the nurturing and educating his children. So if they go onto the wrong track, he will be the one who will be responsible, the one who will be held responsible. So we concluded that this is not taqwa, this is not piety, that a person retires into some forest and leaves his family, leaves his friends, his children. He does not care about the responsibilities he is supposed to take care of in regards to his children, his wife, and all of those circumstances, those duties. So we concluded that this is not taqwa, this is not piety, this is an example of a person who is on the wrong track. Okay, and secondly, even if a person, we concluded this as well, that even if a person reaches a higher rank of piousness, even then that person should not be arrogant. He should not have arrogance built inside of him, but he should on the other hand be humble. He should be humble. So this is what we concluded yesterday, and we referred to a blessed hadith of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, which was narrated by Imam Malik, narrates that Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala states that the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, stated that the act of any one of you towards anyone will not grant you salvation. So reach that rank of piousness, but even then do not think that you have reached that rank of piousness, piety. You fulfilled all your rights, you offered the daily prayers, you paid zakat, offered your pilgrimage, fasted in the month of Ramadan, you refrained from everything which was unlawful and abided by the lawful. And this is an example of a righteous person. Yet even in these circumstances, be humble. Do not be arrogant and say that I am the pious person, but be humble and say that I seek His mercy. I seek the mercy of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and I seek the forgiveness of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. So there was this person sitting beside the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and when he heard the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, say that no act of a person towards anyone will grant him salvation, he asked that, O Prophet of Allah, not even you? The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, replied in the affirmative. And before that he asked that no act of a person will grant salvation to him, O Prophet of Allah? The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, replied in the affirmative, that yes, that is the case. The man then inquired, O Prophet of Allah, not even you? The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, then replied, not even me, but Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala will shade me and shades me and covers me. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala covers me with His mercy, but you continue towards your efforts and endeavours towards the commission of good deeds. Therefore, do not be from amongst the arrogant ones, arrogance which comes out due to your deeds, that a person starts to offer his 5 daily prayers and then he ends up thinking that he is one of the most pious ones. So that is not the right course of action to take. One should be humble. One should not be arrogant. He should be humble. Otherwise, as my Sayyidi Shaykh Ahmad Mohsin Munawar Yousafi states, the hard work of a person will be wasted due to the arrogance in a single moment. So this is to take consideration of, and it is the Aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah that nothing is wajib, obligatory upon Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and everything, the entire universe, comes under the domain of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, comes under the ownership of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. He is the owner. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is the owner. It is His universe. He made it. He is the creator. He owns it. He may do whatever He wishes with it, therefore. So we should be humble, okay? So we have a house. We own it. I have a house. I own it. Now, it is up to me whether I want to build a window in it or not. It is my house. I will do whatever I wish to do with it. Likewise, this universe, everything we see, everything we know of, and everything we don't know of, everything whatsoever comes under the ownership of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And since it comes under the ownership of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He may do so as He wills. He may do whatever He wishes. So Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, it is up to Him whether He blesses a person and whether He blesses a righteous person and grants him paradise or not, whether He throws a disbeliever, a person who does not abide by the commandments of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, whether Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala throws him into hell or not. It is Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala who is the ultimate decision maker, who is the architect of this entire universe. It is up to Him. He will decide. It is in His will that if He so wishes that He enters a righteous person or a pious person into hell, then is that justified? Is that fair? Yes, it is absolutely fair. It is absolutely justified. Why is it justified? Because this is Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala who owns the entire universe, who owns everything. I have a house. I own it. I will do whatever I wish to do with it. Right? Whether I keep one part of the corner beautiful or the other or not. Likewise, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is the owner of the entire universe, everything we know of and everything we don't know of. So it is His discretion, it is His prerogative, you could say. It is Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, whatever He wishes to do with us. So we should seek the grace of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, the mercy of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, the forgiveness of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, that He may grant us paradise. Even if someone is pious, he should not be arrogant therefore, and he should be pious that he may be forgiven by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and that he may be, by the grace of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, by the blessing of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, he be granted paradise by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. So there is this hope, and then there is this fear. Hope that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala will forgive him, and this fear that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala forgives him. So this is the right course of action that a person should take, as my mentor, my teacher, Sayyidi Shaykh Ahmad Mohsin Yousafi states. So Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, it is His choice whether He forgives the rightful person or not. And that is absolutely fair. One cannot say that this is not fair. That will be disrespect. It is fair because it is Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala who owns everything. But one should nonetheless be aware of this, that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is truthful in His promise. He is truthful in His promise that He will forgive the mu'min, the believers, and He will punish the disbelievers, the kafir, and then He will enter the mu'mins into paradise and the disbelievers into hell. Now, if a person is a mu'min, he is a believer, then why should he fear? Why should he be fearful? He should be alright with it. If he is a mu'min and he is a believer, then why does he fear Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala? The reason for that is that one should fear Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and even then in such circumstances not be arrogant and be humble and seek His forgiveness and mercy, because while we may be believers right now, something might happen in the near future that we may not remain in the bounds of Islam, that we may not remain believers, that we may not remain believers, and we may become disbelievers, God forbid. And under those circumstances, in that state we die. Then what will happen? Then what will happen? We will not be Muslims at that time, God forbid. Then we should seek therefore the forgiveness of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, because Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He forgives whosoever He wills. It is recorded in the blessed Bukhari Sharif that there was this prostitute who used to commit adultery day and night. This was her profession. She used to commit adultery and engage in this manner. She used to commit sins day and night. But it was this small act of hers, that she was there by a well one day when she saw a dog thirsty. She saw a dog thirsty, and she provided water to that thirsty dog. She had mercy in her heart, and due to that single act of her, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala forgave the entire sins of that prostitute. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is so merciful. Such a small act of that prostitute, and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala forgave her entire sins. Likewise, Hazrat Shaykh Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi radiyallahu ta'ala, he writes that centuries ago there was this king in the city of Bukhara in Uzbekistan. It used to be Russia. My mentor Sayyidi Shaykh Ahmad Mohsin Munawar Yousafi, he has travelled to Bukhara as well, travelled to those parts of the world as well. So he tells us that Bukhara is very cold. The Uzbekistan and those parts of the world, they're very cold. So if there's a river, it would get so cold that one could walk on the river then. It would all get freezed up. It would all freeze. So Hazrat Shaykh Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi radiyallahu ta'ala, he writes that centuries ago there was a king in Bukhara. There was a ruler living in Bukhara. He had a bad temper, and he was a very cruel king. And the people of his country used to pray that may the king die. May the king die, because he was so cruel. So one following day, the king was on his horse, and he was going somewhere when he came across a dog, and he saw that the dog was shivering due to the cold weather, and he was nearing death. He did not have food to eat. The dog was in a very bad condition. So having seen that dog in such a situation, in such a state, the cruel king, had mercy in his heart, and he asked his servant to take the dog to the palace and take care of the dog until he returns back. So the service took the dog back to the king's palace. Now the fire was lit for the dog, food was provided to the dog. Food was provided to the dog. The dog was taken care of. The body of the dog was massaged with oil, and then a piece of cloth was placed on the dog. The dog was covered with a piece of cloth, a warm cloth, because the season was so cold. It was winter season. It was so cold at that time. So the dog was covered with a piece of cloth. Then the dog was taken care of. Eventually, the dog recovered. He became well, he became healthy, and when he became healthy and well, he returned to his place. He went away from the palace. Now, with the passage of time, the cruel king, he died. He got fever and he died. Now there was a saint at the time of that king who, when the king died, he had a dream, and he saw the king, that cruel king, in his dream, and he inquired from that king, then, what happened with you? What occurred with you? Because you were so cruel, what actually occurred with you now? So the king replied that I was made to stand in front of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. I was made to stand in front of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala said to me that you were like a dog to me. You were like a dog in front of me, but your actions were not of humans. Your actions were of animals, because you were so cruel. But due to your act of mercy towards that dog, which was dying and was shivering due to cold and due to that winter season, and you saved that, you provided shelter to that dog, you provided food to him, you took care of that dog, he became healthy. Due to that single act of yours, I have forgiven a dog like you. That is what Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala said. And that saint was seeing this while in a dream, that the king was telling him this account of his, that due to this act of his, that saving that dog, taking care of that dog, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala forgave that cruel king. So this means that one should not be proud over his actions. One should be humble. One should not be arrogant. He should be humble, and he should seek the forgiveness of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. So therefore Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala states in the 21st verse of Surah Al Baqarah, Ya ayyuhan nas u'budu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum walladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O mankind, worship your Lord who created you and those before you, that happily you may become righteous. So we've been contemplating upon this verse, and then in the subsequent verse Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala states, Alladhi ja'ala lakumul arda firashan was samaa'a bina'an wa anzala minas samaa'i ma'an fa akhraja bihi minas thamarati rizqan lakum fala taj'alu lillahi andadan wa antum ta'lamun. And who made the earth a bed for you and the sky a canopy, and caused water to come down from heavens, hence brought forth therewith some fruits for your provision. Therefore do not set up equals for Allah while you know. So even the disbelievers accepted that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala was their God. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala was the God. But then the issue is that do not enjoin anyone with Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. He alone is the God. There is no God but Allah. Okay? So He alone is the God, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And you cannot associate anyone with Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. He is the alone. Okay? He is the God. So this is what is being said. So Sayyidi Shaykh Ahmad Mohsin Yousafi states that for a majority is always under one authority. For instance, let's take an example. A company might have thousands of employees, but the CEO at the top will always be one. A country would have hundreds of thousands, millions of population, but the Prime Minister would be one. The President of the country would be one. Likewise, this entire universe, it's very big, and there are a lot of things in this entire universe, but the one who controls it, the master, the creator, the owner, the one in whose ownership everything comes, the owner, the architect, the ultimate architect, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He is one. He is one, and He is the only God. So do not be of the arrogant ones and accept that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is alone our God, and He is the one who is operating everything. So therefore, it is in this perspective that we understand what piety is, and that we should not be arrogant and not enjoin or associate anyone with Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, because He alone is the God. To access the same lecture in Urdu, please click on the link available below in the description.